Welcome everyone to the Reformers Podcast. My name is Farres Yasser and I will be your host today. Today's episode we will be discussing revolutionizing earth construction. The Reformers Podcast aims to acquaint engineers, planners, and various professionals with visionary individuals who are actively engaged in researching, teaching, and implementing sustainable approaches within the realm of the built environment. My guest today is Radwa Rostom. Radwa is a civil engineer with 14 years of working experience. Radwa has worked in several fields such as construction, green buildings, environmental consultancy, energy efficiency, energy management, and CSR. During her career path, Radwa worked with several international organizations such as the World Bank, UNIDO, and UNDP. In 2015, Radwa launched her company Handover, a design and build firm specialized in delivering building solutions that are cost-effective, human-centric, and environment-friendly using earth construction techniques. Their ultimate goal is to revolutionize the building industry and introduce alternative building techniques to create sustainable buildings and communities. Their work has been recognized by local and international organizations. 5 of their projects were nominated for the Aga Khan Award for Architecture in 2 cycles. Besides her work at Handover, Radwa is a part-time lecturer at several universities such as the German University in Cairo and Nile University Architecture departments. Radwa is a certified earth builder from the Earth Institute in Auroville, India. She was featured on the list of the 100 most influential young Arabs under 40 in 2015, created by the Arabian Business magazine. In September 2015, she was awarded the winning prize for the Women for Resilient Cities competition organized by the World Bank and was granted 3 fellowships from international organizations supporting social entrepreneurship leaders, Echoing Green, Ashoka, and the DO School, and the company was incubated in 4 incubators. In 2020, she was recognized as a highly recommended candidate by the jury of Tomayo's Excellence Award for the Women in Architecture and Construction Award. But most of all, she is an inspiring voice, someone I have been following for almost 10 years, and then had the honor to deliver sustainable practices and continue the discourse together where possible. She is a beacon of light, and she reminds me each day that this is not a journey for the faint-hearted, but for both the soft-hearted and the brave one. I am pleased that we can shed light on her projects, which span several types of buildings, proving that Earth is for all, not just for any group in particular. Radwa has shown the true nature of Handover, to hand over all information through teaching and community collaboration on every scale, and I am truly grateful to have come into contact with such an institute and with such a person. My name is Farres Yasser. I'll be hosting the podcast. I have over 11 years of experience in sustainable architecture engineering through ECHO, experimental research, communal collaborative comprehensive design, and outreach through teaching. I'm Farres Yasser, and this is the Reformers Podcast, focusing on the built environment.
Welcome everyone to the Reformers Podcast. My guest today is Radwa Rostom, the construction with mud guru. She's someone I've been following for a very long time. I think if I had the opportunity to meet her 8 or 9 years ago, maybe my career would have been very different, and the things I've been interested in and dabbled in would have been very different. But here she is. For everyone who is interested in building vernacularly or building with natural materials and really wants to get their hands into it and not be on the outskirts, you're in for a very, very interesting ride. Radwa, thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure to always meet with you, and it's a pleasure to finally have our podcast together. Please tell us a bit about yourself in your own words, a bit about your education, skills, work, hobbies, personal life, etc.
Thank you so much, Farres. It's an honor for me to be on your podcast and to finally meet you in person just a couple of weeks ago here in Egypt. And thank you for all the efforts you're doing to bring in new ideas and to let people share their thoughts and their experiences. Yes, let me start. My background is civil engineering. I've been graduated, I think, 14 years now. So yeah, I think if you've met me 9 or 8 years ago, you wouldn't have been very inspired because I was just still exploring everything around me. Um, the idea of handover didn't just come like in one time. It just came like gradually. Um, Let me just quickly go through the cycle of how it started and the exploration of it. I was studying construction. I was very into social activities and volunteering activities, and I felt being a student and being a bit privileged that we have a responsibility to contribute to our society. So I was trying to do with, with a very minimal experience that I have in this field, and also with the time that I have. I used to volunteer in some slum areas around Cairo, and I felt that this was just the inspiration of Handover, that being a construction student, we should be helping people living in not very humane conditions with the things that we know about. So just the idea kept in the back of my mind, and I graduated as any student with the fear that I need to pick up and start my career path, and I wasn't sure exactly what I should be working on. So I followed the normal path of working in a construction company, and I felt this is not exactly what I want to do. I was always fascinated about all the environmental issues, and especially the ones related to my field, and I wasn't sure about the word sustainability fits in the construction industry. We never had this connection even back then when I was studying. So when I like at one research I was doing, I realized that there's something called green building, there's something called sustainability in construction. I felt maybe this is something I would be interested in. So I started to learn about it, read about it, and I was satisfied that this is should be my next career goal. And I started to look for any place or any firm that have this kind of or the same mentality. And it was not very easy to find a place here in Egypt that believes in these ideas. And luckily, I was able to join a consultancy firm. I worked on like some not very relevant topics, but in energy management systems. I worked on also how to make existing buildings more sustainable through energy audits and through some rehabilitation activities. And then I felt there's something still missing. I'm still not contributing to the community. I'm still not doing something social or something that would satisfy also my needs. So I realized in order to be fully satisfied, I need to bring on the table three main topics. It's construction, sustainability, and community. And I couldn't find this model anywhere else. So 8 or 9 years ago, I decided maybe I would just give it a try. I wasn't sure about anything. It was just a very immature idea. I want to build houses for people who live in unprivileged communities through sustainable materials. And I didn't know anything about the details, but it was just the start of the journey back then. And yes, and I'm sure through the conversation, I'll just show how it evolved and developed until it became the shape it is at the moment.
Yes, please share with us your projects. I think you answered my second question, which was going to be why construction with mud, and what happened for you to take on this career path, or this life path, I would say, which is more important than the career path, and why did you choose to even teach this in your curriculums? And it's very understandable. You want to bring change about to the people, and you want to use what you were interested in the first place, construction, in a way that, and civil engineering, in a way that will change lives. So it's understandable. And I think from my limited knowledge of your very interesting projects, you've done that very well. And I think I can't wait for the audience to see it as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think I can share the presentation, and then I always start with some facts, or I would say for me, they were the triggers of why I started this kind of work, or when I started to get more educated about our impact as a field on the environment and how we can do better, or why we should do better. And I felt like maybe this could be a start. I wouldn't claim that it's the solution to all our problems, but it was just an angle that I can start working on. Let me share it now. Perfect. So yes, I'm sure most of your audience who are interested in these topics are aware about these facts, but whenever I start a presentation, I always go through them, even if they're not very up to date. The numbers might have changed, but still, these were my triggers. So, first fact, which is more related to urbanization, it says over the next 40 years, the world is expected to build 230 billion square meters in new construction. This is adding the equivalent of the area of Paris to the planet every single week. The second fact is related to emissions. So 39% of our energy-related carbon dioxide emissions comes from buildings and construction. And 36% of the global energy use also comes from building and construction. In terms of material use, we are also responsible for almost 50% of the global material use as well. So all these facts just made me feel like we are responsible. Anyone who's a decision maker or who's working in this industry has something to do, or is sort of responsible to all these like negative impact on the environment, and the results are visible to every one of us. We've been hearing about a lot of like natural hazards and natural incidents, and of course resulting in global warming, and so we have a role to play. So I've been like looking even before starting working exactly on like earth construction or at handover. I was looking at what has been done so far in different and also in the of course in the construction field, but what has been done. Of course, we've been hearing about the SDGs, and we can talk a lot about whether they are like a real impactful way to tackle these issues or not. But nevertheless, there was a movement to do something, and we have a specific goal about sustainable cities and communities. There has been, of course, a lot of encouragement to start using more renewable energies and more renewable resources also in the buildings and our construction facilities. Passive design, which is definitely one of the main important, and we always complement what we're doing through, of course, through the designs. So passive design has become one of the main topics that architects and people working in this industry has been adopting in most of the projects. Of course, the ones who are conscious and aware. Rating systems also, we can, as I said, like all of these topics, we can have a pure talker on one talk, like one dedicated talk to all of these, whether they are really impactful or not. But we have to mention that there has been some proactive actions from different institutes, and we have many related to specific countries or general ones or international ones.
Radwa, sorry, can I just ask if you can just put the Adobe Reader on full screen, please?
Yes, of course.
Just because some text is sometimes a bit small, so I think.
Absolutely. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. Yes, and we've been hearing a lot of like a couple of terms and keywords that I don't think they've been very familiar to many people in this industry before. But now we've been hearing keywords like life cycle assessment. People have been, I would say, we've been very short-sighted. We only see the materials that we have in hand or on the site. But now people are getting more aware that you cannot just analyze the material once it arrives to the site. You have to see the full cycle of it. Yeah, I claim that people are becoming more conscious about this, cradle to cradle, and also the same idea of not just thinking at the moment, but thinking about the whole life cycle of whatever materials you're using. Materials, as we said, it's a huge chunk in all these numbers and all these impacts. So this is why we started to think about earth construction. As I said, earth construction was not something I knew about it before I started handover. I wasn't aware that this is something that we can use. I had a lot of misconceptions about it, like most of the people now. But when I was researching, when I said I want to build environment friendly, I wasn't sure what tools do we have. So I started researching, and I knew about earth construction and I knew about how it's relevant also to our culture and our climate. And because I couldn't find a reliable institute or a reliable place here in Egypt to learn about these techniques from, I had to travel to India. This is at least the place where I knew it was reliable to learn about this knowledge from. And I stayed for a couple of weeks, and afterwards I returned and I felt this is something I could start working on. That's why from the very beginning, I always had in mind that one of our core values or core topics we should be working on is the educational side, because we shouldn't all be traveling somewhere else or going or finding it the hard way, but this knowledge should be accessible. So why earth construction, or what is earth construction? So as the name implies, it's working with earth materials, working with very common and known materials. We're talking about gravel, sand, and silt and clay. This is something that we did not invent. It's not something new. It's something ancient, and we will see how ancient it is and how it goes back to like thousands of years ago. But our role and the role of other firms around the world, and not just in Egypt, is to revive these techniques, is to find why we abandoned them, and since we abandoned them, what's the modern needs that have are like we want at the moment in terms of our buildings or the places we live in, and how we can contribute in this. So yes, as we said, it's very basic materials, mostly found in most of the sites.
I just have a question. So
Sure.
you took an off year after you graduated and you went to India, or was this, were you already working somewhere and you were tired and you said, no, that's it, I'm going to India?
Yes,
Namaste.
yeah, it just came gradually. So I worked for almost 2 years in a construction company, and then another 2 years in in an environmental consulting firm, and then I worked in a very different field in an NGO based in Brussels, and I was working here in Egypt as the business developer. I also wanted to explore the field of the NGOs and how they work, because I always had the idea in mind that to work in a social context, you have to be working in an NGO. I didn't know that there's something called a social enterprise. I didn't know that you can still work in a private company and have a social impact. So I was basically exploring. So I graduated 2009, and I started working on the idea of handover in 2014. All these years I was exploring different career options until I realized that I would only be satisfied if I brought all these things together. So how I started working on the idea of handover, it was in 2014. I found a fellowship opportunity in Germany, and it was very basic. Like, if you have an idea for a social development in your country, just apply, and we will teach you how to do a business plan. We will mentor you. And I was not connected to this word at all. The entrepreneurial word and the business plans and all these things. I only had an idea, and it was very immature. And I applied, and for some reason I got accepted. And my boss at this moment, he's still my mentor at the moment. He was he encouraged me a lot to take like 2 months off from work and to travel to Germany and stay there, only focus on this idea and see how it will go. And this was the spark that started the handover. I started to know about what's a business plan, how to change an idea from just an idea to an action plan, how to actually work on it. So it was a 1-year fellowship. I stayed 2 months in Germany, and the rest were here in Egypt. I had to come back and to actually build something, or like to do a prototype. So the prototype in my case was to build an actual building. And this was around starting from 2014 to 2016. I traveled to India after I came back from Germany, because I knew this is what I want to explore at the moment, the earth construction part. And when I came back, I started to connect with anyone who knows anything about earth construction here in Egypt. I started to look them up on the internet, on Facebook, and everyone who had this knowledge was very, very helpful. They volunteered with their time, with their effort. They were my advisors. Till now, most of them I'm connected to, and we work together. I even reached out to experts around the world, like people in the US and people in Australia, and people were very, very helpful. Until now, as I said, they're still in my advisory board. So yes, so the idea was to start working on something tangible. So it made perfect sense for me to go back to the place where I started, where this idea sparked, which was, it's a place called Azbat Abu Arn, in Masr Azima, in one of the suburbs in Cairo. And I returned back. I started talking with the families. I have this idea in mind. People, of course, didn't accept it at all in the beginning. So I think it took us more than a year to talk to families, to find someone who's interested or at least willing to explore this, to find how I will fund this prototype, and also to bring in together a team. So I had to talked to a lot of experts. I recruited students so that we can teach them also the simple knowledge that I had so far, and also to get them on board during the design and also the construction. So it was, a huge learning curve for me and for everyone who was involved. And I will definitely talk about this project specifically when we come to this part. But yeah, this is how it started, and also the thing that pushed me to actually like quit my job and register the company is that while I was trying to fundraise for this prototype, I applied for a couple of other fellowship programs and grants. So I applied for competition through the World Bank, and I got the winning prize. So with the winning prize, I was able to build the house. And also I was accepted in the 2 fellowship programs, Equine Green and Ashoka. So I was sort of financially stable to be able to quit my job and start a company and hire a team. So this was in 2016.
Thank you for that. I will not stop you. You can go on. I just wanted people to,
Input is always because
I just wanted people to know the journey, because sometimes they just think, oh, this person, they just had everything in the right place at the right time, and you spread your tentacles, you spread your arms, you go to different places, you see different things, you take a chance in something that's completely out of your scope, but it seems an area of curiosity. You have someone who has the pure intention, they tell you go for it, you try it.
Yes.
And you apply, because a lot of times we procrastinate, not because we're lazy, not because it's just because we're afraid.
Absolutely, and it's totally it was out of my comfort zone. Something new. I knew anything. I had no idea about this kind of work, and it was out of my comfort zone. And as you said, having this support system of like my manager at the moment, even like my family and my friends, everyone was very supportive. This is very important. Sometimes when you're like doing it on your own, it feels very hard, and it is already hard. But yeah, it wasn't like a one night you just decide to do this, but it came through a long process. And the main motto I was adopting at the moment and until now is that I have nothing to lose, and I have to try, so that I would not regret this after a couple of years. I would always keep asking myself, what if I had done this? What if I started this? So I wasn't ready to take this burden. So I said, now is the moment to try it and see if it will actually work or not.
Well done.
Thank you. So yeah, I will not go through like earth construction in very details, but I wanted just to give like a glimpse of what is earth construction, how it looks like, how it the shape of it, the texture of it, the color of it, because through this talk also I think we're talking about misconceptions about earth construction and how people perceive it. So it's just not a one type thing. It's not something that it's not just a one thing, because people always refer to it as maybe it's just Adobe, but actually there are more than 12 techniques of earth construction. I've learned about this in Oroville, and I have to give credits to them. So, and it's not something also relevant to a specific location, a specific culture, but it's, as you see, it's scattered around the map. And when we say it's something, because also one of the main misconceptions that it's not durable, it's not something that you can rely on. We have sites that I think has been like 3,000 years ago. I've visited this site. Of course, there are a lot of like rehabilitation activities that has been done, but it's still existing and standing, an Adobe arch. Also Shibam, anyone who have heard about earth construction have heard about this site. They call it Manhattan of the desert. And like they resemble it as a skyscraper made out of earth. Yes, it's 6 or 7 floors, but still to build with this floors out of earth, this was an invention and still an invention. Also, this is one of the great examples of a very social project, the mosque, this mosque in Mali. It has even a very nice documentary that BBC has done. Because it's a landmark in the city. People come every year as a very collective social event where all the people of the village would contribute in the maintenance of the mosque to preserve it. Also, places of Al Hamra Palace also has been built out of earth. The same with also the Great Wall of China. And taking this scene to the very modern scene, as I said, there has been a revival wave because of all the talks that we've been hearing about climate change and all that impact of what we're doing and the 1.5 degrees that we have to preserve. So there has been this kind of wave, not just in Earth, but in other techniques and other initiatives has been taken. But we wanted to show also some case studies around the world of how you can take a very simple and very raw technique and materials like earth construction and actually do something that fits our modern needs. So this is one of the examples in Mexico, another one, and a lot of examples also in the US. This is one of the, it's also the different uses of buildings. It can be residential, it can be a commercial, or this is like an office building. Also in the hospitality sector, this is a boutique hotel in India. Also another example of a residential building. And Martin Rauf is, of course, one of the leaders of the earth construction at the moment. Another example in Germany, another one in Switzerland. This was a factory. So there's been a couple of uses of using earth construction in buildings. Some of the facts and also followed by the misconceptions. It's not something new. It's something very ancient, as we said. It's something that's still being used. Also, it hasn't been abandoned like fully, but still people in different regions are still living or working in places made out of earth. It's, as we said, it's like the material. One of the main things that even encouraged me to work on it is that it's something that's found almost everywhere. It's something that's easy to be passed on, like the knowledge can be passed on to laborers or even to like young professionals. It doesn't actually have to require specific or expensive materials or tools. And it's, of course, it's durable, and we've seen this through the past examples. Of course, when it comes to benefits, and we always compare it with the conventional ways, and the conventional here in most of the buildings is using concrete frames and fired red bricks or cement blocks. And these numbers are either from our simulation or from the literature review or from our own calculations. So in some projects, we were able to add sensors inside our buildings and outside in order to understand its operational benefits or its performance, I would say. But in terms of these numbers, as I said, it's either from the simulation or from the literature review. So we were very focused on analyzing the materials from the very beginning in terms of their embodied carbon and the embodied energy we use, and also the operational as well. So these numbers were satisfactory to start with, and because some of the projects or many of the projects also we work with, some of the clients are very conscious to apply for green certificates or to apply for mostly green certificates are the I would say the statement of that this building is more sustainable than other building techniques, the conventional building techniques. So these are some of the numbers compared to the conventional, as we said. And also in terms of living comfort, that was very important for us, because when we talk about handover specifically, one of the main core values that we adopt is the human-centered design. So it was very important for us to understand or to know how the clients or how our beneficiaries would want their buildings to be. We want them to be comfortable in the building, so the design has to be even if it's a longer process, but it has to be very relevant to what the users need and what their pain are and how we can eliminate this. So finding a technique or a design, even process that would guarantee this was very important to us. And of course, in terms of like thermal insulation, this is mainly one of the benefits of using earth, is the thermal mass of the thermal insulation of these materials. So that's why it's a given that this is one of the main components of such, or benefits of such technique. Another also angle is the aesthetics. So also from like exploring the market of the real estate and the other design activities or initiatives that are happening, we've seen there's a bit of like redundance of the kind of buildings that are being built or even suggested for the developers. So we felt that using a different material with a different aesthetics is definitely needed, because the market has been saturated with common designs and exported designs from abroad. So having something that has a natural look, it's sort of relevant to the culture and the community, and it has a uniqueness in terms of design and final look. This was also, we felt that this is something that we can market this material with. And durability, this is something also very important for most of the clients, is that they want to guarantee that these materials are durable, they has low maintenance and also low cost in terms of maintenance. Of course, there were a lot of misconceptions that we've heard from the very beginning until now. Actually, most of these misconceptions, we always hear them in most of our conversation with clients, and no matter what the clients are, whether developers or individuals or even in the development sector, there's a couple of misconceptions always associated with earth construction. Of course, starting with, I will start with the water part, the rain specifically. This is one of the main, from the very beginning in the very first project that we started, the people were very skeptical about earth because mainly two things. One is that it reflects a specific social standard. So we were actually working in the slum area, but people in slum areas, they were always looking up to people who are rich in their own words, and they want to build as they build. They want to build with concrete, they want to build with blocks. They don't want to build with earth because it always associates them with a specific social standard. And the other part was the rain. They were very skeptical about the material, and they always had an idea in their mind that if it rained, this material will just collapse. It will just resolve. It will just solve in the water. But we've reached these two, I would say, conclusions. And one day we were working on site and it actually rained. And everyone, not just the owners of the house, but everyone around the neighborhood, they just came out to see the house collapsing. So when they saw that it actually was standing and it was as it is, this was one of the realization moments where they were very convinced and confident that this is something reliable. And the other point, we tried to show them projects around the world, and projects in the US and in Europe, and people like luxury buildings used out of earth. Sort of, they were convinced that maybe we've only seen one example, like the ones we see in the villages around here. But we wanted to show them that this material has more value, and we can do more with it, not just the typical house that you have in mind. So we still hear those misconceptions, but at least like we can reply to them with things in hand that we have done. Also, a lot of misconceptions are related to how it looks, the finish, the quality, its durability. People always say that you can only build one floor, you cannot build more than one floor. So we show them buildings of a couple of floors, whether using other structure elements or not. You can still go up to 2 or 3 floors as well. Also, and that's related to specific places, related to specific climate. We show them this range of modern and ancient buildings around the world and in different contexts. And also, one of the very common misconceptions about building with earth is that people think that we destroy the agricultural land and that we take the clay that people use it in agriculture, which is the complete opposite. We don't use materials that has most of the techniques of earth, and we don't use material that has organics in it. So we don't use this kind of clay. So we don't ruin agricultural land. So these I try to collect some of the sentences we hear a lot, so that people can relate to them, that these are misconceptions, these are not real facts about earth. However, there are still some limitations, of course, when we say earth. We never claimed, and we will never claim, that this is something that can replace conventional techniques. We can still work on a couple of applications, but it cannot replace all the applications that we have to build with. High-rise, when we say a couple of floors, like if we want to use only earth without any structural elements, yes, it's still a limitation and it's totally fine. But still, if we want to build, and we've explored a couple of projects that wanted to build 15 meters and 20 meters using earth, it's doable, but we always have to look at it from a structural perspective and how we can, I would say, reinforce the buildings with another material. Of course, when it comes to building codes and regulation, there are still limitations in some countries. Luckily, here in Egypt, we have a code issued in 2019 about stabilized compressed earth blocks that now consultants can refer to. But in some countries, it's still, they don't have the building codes approved from their countries, or their codes do not specify that you can use only earth, and you still have to use, for example, frames or skeleton from another technique, another material. And the other common limitations in terms of, we mostly adopt wall bearing systems, structure systems, so it's the same limitations as any wall bearing system in terms of openings, in terms of wall thicknesses, because the walls are structure elements. So basically, the main two techniques we've been adopting are rammed earth, which is basically layers of compacted earth. It has this shape or final look of different layers, and we can shape them, or we can use specific colors if needed from our clients. These colors are formed from whether getting silt from different sources, so they have different colors, or adding natural oxides to change the color of the mix. These are just a couple of examples of walls, and this is the basic formwork we can use. Of course, there are more complicated ones, but it's just to give the idea that it's a wall fabricated on site using plywood, compact as a mold, and you just compact layer by layer until you reach the needed height. And the compressed earth blocks is the second material technique that we've been using, which is basically, or mostly it's the same mixture, but we have to add like stabilizers to it. And we use machine, whether it's a manual, hydraulic, or an electrical machine. And as you can see, it depends on the mold of the compressor. You can get different sizes and different shapes of the block, and also the color of it depends on the mixture and where you source your silt from.
Radwa, can I just ask regarding the rammed earth wall? So do you build the whole plywood structure and you compact the whole wall and then you remove it from the bottom up, or do you have to do it in sections? If we can go back to the slide with the plywood.
Both options are valid. So, for example, one of the latest projects we had, it was very the client was very specific to have a certain pattern of the wall, and the wall was 10 meters long. So, in order to guarantee that it have the same color and the same pattern along the 10 meters, we had to put the formwork along the 10 meters. You cannot, of course, put the full height. So the maximum height you can go is the height of the plywood, which is 1 meter, or if it's the other orientation, it's 2 meters. So this is in one project we can do it as this picture. So it's just a one pattern, or one panel. And once it's finished, you just remove it and you add it. So you have to put into consideration a couple of things: the productivity level and how fast you want to go in this project, your timeline, your budget. If you have a budget to bring in a lot of like formworks, it's definitely more, it's better in order to fasten the process. And if you want to guarantee the similarity of the same wall or a facade, then you can add all your plywood at one time, and then once you finish this level, you go up to the other level.
And thank you. And with the earth blocks, I see that there are two completely different. One is a bit yellowish or beige, the other is a bit more red. Is there a difference in how they were made? How long do they take to dry? When you say stabilizers, are we talking stabilizers that are synthetic, or are they also compostable? So when they go back to the ground, do they cause any damage to the earth? Or
yes, in terms of color, yes, both or the two blocks were sourced. The silt was sourced from different sources. This one I think was in Al-Minya, and this one was in Al-Wahid. So it depends on where you source your silt. So silt can have different colors. So it can start from the yellowish color to the reddish color, depending on the quarries you source your material from. So that's why you get different colors. Sometimes the client is very specific in the color of the silt they want. So you have to find the quarry that gets this color. But of course, most of the time, especially if we're using the blocks, it's the other way around. You match your colors depending on the relevant or the nearest queries from you, because it doesn't make sense that you sort them or you get them somewhere far. But in a project, for example, as the round earth, sometimes yes, they have like a color pattern or a color palette that you usually try to match. whether using like oxides or using different sources of SID. In terms, you were asking about, yes, the composition or the mixture itself. I was saying in the compressed earth blocks, you usually add stabilizer, which is cement or lime, with a specific percentage. So, for example, you can go up to 5% or 7%, depending on the compressive strength you need. So they're all connected and they're all relevant. So you have still a design and you have a function that you want to fulfill. So you have also to guarantee that the system you're using is structurally safe and sound. So this is how it goes. Like we do a mixture and we do samples to be tested. And once we get the results from the lab, we run them by the structural engineer and we understand whether this is safe in terms of the loads and the design that we are doing or not. If not, then we have to go back and do another mixture. But we started to get the sense of the recommended mix for every project, but still this is a step that we have to do it, and we have to run it by a structural consultant to guarantee the safety of the buildings in terms of loads. You were saying about it after the life cycle of, or the afterlife of the blocks. So of course, if we can sometimes like break them and use the same mix in a different form, whether in blocks or in a mix related to round earth. But if you're referring to it as a waste or going to the landfill, it still have percentage of cement, especially with the compressed earth blocks. But we were saying that it's something that could be recycled or could be upcycled, whether you can use it in the same form or you can just crash them, and this would be your raw material for a new form.
But you can just use lime instead of cement if the situation allows it.
Yes, and we've done this in a couple of projects. So we've tried the lime, we've tried the cement, and it also depends on the mixture that you have. If it's like has a more clay content or it has a more sand content, it's preferable to use lime in one status and cement in the other. But sometimes we've used lime, yes, as a stabilizer in our mixture as well.
And how long does it take to dry, usually?
Usually, if it's stabilized, then it takes the same number of days as the concrete to reach to its full strength, like the 28 days. But sometimes we use, like after 2 weeks, you can still use them. So we cure them, we cover them to reach their maximum strength, and then we're able to use them.
Of course, we're talking about nice sunny Egypt. We're not talking about humid.
Yeah, honestly, I haven't heard this, but yeah, we're talking not just about Egypt. We've used the compressed earth blocks in Upper Egypt, so this is like the highest degrees that you can reach to. I think after even 1 week it can be used, but we usually refer to 2 weeks, so it's completely dried and cured.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so going back or not back, and how is this relevant to handover, or what we're actually doing in handover? So we as a company, we are a limited liability company. We are design and build, so we take the two activities together, the designing arm and also the implementation or the construction arm. The main focus or the main vision that we had was to create something or to build with something that falls under the umbrella of being cost effective and being environment friendly. So that's why earth construction is one of the solutions. We always say that because maybe at some point we would find another technique or another material that would fall also under this umbrella of being cost effective and also environment friendly. So as I was referring to the main core values or pillars we adopt, human-centered design is one of the main aspects we have, and also creating a social impact. As I was saying, I wasn't aware that you could be a private company and still have a social impact, because we always know that NGOs are the ones who do development work. So from the very beginning, I wanted to always add this angle to our work, is to always have a social impact and to always consider the human-centered design aspect in all of our projects, whether they're social or even commercial projects. Sustainability, and when we say sustainability also, we're trying even to be more conscious by the time we go. It's not just the material side, but we always complement the material with the design. We always adopt the passive design techniques. We try to add the simulation activities to understand also how our buildings perform. We're trying to add another dimension as well to our projects and our research phase by by adding the life cycle assessment study in all the materials we use. So it's like we haven't started everything at one point or from the beginning, but we're taking it like step by step. Also, knowledge transfer, as I referred in the beginning, it was very important from day one, is to always have an arm for the knowledge transfer and for delivering whether the knowledge we have or the experience we've been through to others, whether young professionals, students, the laborers we work with. So it's very important for us to keep this consistent. And beside my work, I sometimes teach on part-time basis in some private universities here in Egypt, also for the sake of transferring this knowledge and preparing the young generations or the coming generations that they have options. They don't have to stick to the conventional or to the normal path, but at least they would know about it and they get to choose. And also in this arm, it's very important for us that it's always a practical or hands-on setup. We do not believe that giving them a lecture or just a presentation, that this is enough, but working in something as earth, you have to touch it, you have to understand the material, you have to sense it. So it has to be in a hands-on setup. In terms of research and development, we also, I mentioned this, like we feel responsible because we took this into our arms, that we are reviving these techniques. So we have to have an impact. We have to develop on the knowledge we already found, and we do this in a context and related to the projects. We don't have like a team or a committee working on research just for the sake of research, but we always guarantee that whenever we're starting a new project with a new challenge, that we dedicate or we develop something in the work we do, whether we develop the tools we use, we develop the mix, we do sometimes we come up with a research paper on some topic we have explored. So it's always relevant to the projects we're working on. So yeah, I think we've covered the research part. So yeah, the other part I wanted to clarify also the type of projects we've worked on. So we usually work either on like social project, as I mentioned, it's any kind of project that would create a social impact, whether it's a school, it's a medical facility, it's a community center, any kind of project that would have a social development aspect. Then we always have to have a collaborator from the community, whether a community-led organization, NGO, a donor, but someone who is our connection between the community and our team. And the other arm, which is the individual and real estate developers, anyone who has something private, or as I said, like real estate developers who want to build something. Let me just emphasize on this point. So as I was saying about handover and how it started, in the very beginning, the idea was mostly related to social projects. So the idea I had in mind was and it was very, very specific, to build houses using natural or environment-friendly materials. And after we did our first project, we got, I would say, attraction from different articles were published about the project. People were talking about this project from the scene of the development, and from also like people who are interested in sustainability in general. So we got a couple of requests from NGOs who wants to build projects, but they were not specifically houses, but mostly public spaces. So internally, we had a discussion like, would it really affect our vision to enlarge our offering more? It doesn't have to only focus on housing. So we said, it makes sense. So we started saying we build, or we design and build projects in general that have a social impact. And then after we worked for a couple of years and we always try to evaluate what we're doing, we referred again to our vision. If we really want to impact the construction industry and introduce a technique or a method that is more sustainable, then if we kept working on on development projects or the development sector, I don't think we thought that this would not affect the construction scene. So we felt it makes more sense if we added also the angle or the arm of working also on the commercial side, so we can benefit both worlds. That's how it evolved until it became the shape that it is at the moment. As I said, human-centered design is very important. We have clients, some of the beneficiaries of our projects can be kids, can be students. So we wanted to explore ideas of how we can collect the data from them, whether through drawings or through interviews or through living with them. Like this project in St. Catherine, we actually went and stayed for 1 week there to understand their culture, to also eliminate the misconceptions we have about this culture that is very different from ours. So we try as much as we can to be like involved with them and let them also be involved in this project. It was a school, and also to include the students with us, we created a design competition, and we asked anyone who's interested to apply. And this team who was presenting their idea were the ones whose idea was chosen, and they were trying to get as creative as possible to include the community as well throughout the design process until it was the idea was developed and built. Again, when we say capacity building, it's not just the students or the young professionals whom we try to always include them, whether in the projects or through workshops, but we always include laborers from the community. We believe that the human power is very important in our techniques, because we depend a lot on laborers and on human power. So having a big chunk of the budget of the project going to the community but in an indirect way is important. And also the idea of including them, and they would feel the sense of ownership that they have participated in this project, not just through the design but also through the construction. And also it's good to give them a new skill that they can use it afterwards as a source of income for them and their families. The type of projects that we've worked on so far are mostly residential or commercial projects, communal projects, or public places and urban development as well. These are some of the techniques we have explored, but mainly we've been focusing on ramped earth and compressed earth blocks, and stones is a given. Sometimes we use it in foundation or in some projects if it's available on site. These are some of the examples of the projects we've worked on. This is the first project that I've referred to, our prototype. I always say probably it's not the best or the nicest project, but for us it's the project where we've learned a lot. We've realized the idea. We've understood even the challenges we will be going through. We were just basically testing how people perceive it, testing the material, testing the labors, testing the tools, everything. So yeah, and we were happy to see the people like shaping the place with their own culture. We didn't have an input on how they will finish the house. And this was the second project we've worked on, which is a community.
So, Radwa, sorry, the first project, can you just walk me through the map, maybe clockwise or anti-clockwise? Which areas did you guys go to? And then also, after mentioning in the map itself, like there's a slide before this one where you mentioned like specific locations within Cairo. Yeah, just walk us through that briefly, and then just tell us a little bit about that room, because I personally know the story, but I'd love people to know the story of that room. Why was it? I know you said it in the beginning, but why was that controversial?
This house?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So basically, our projects, as you can see, they're scattered everywhere. So of course, the hardest is to build in the big cities like Cairo or in Alexandria or things like that, but we always work in the outskirts. We've worked in Upper Egypt, we've worked in Sinai, we've worked in Upper Egypt, like Luxor, Aswan. We've worked in places close to Cairo, like Al Ayat, it's closer to Giza. So yes, they're basically scattered, not a specific pattern, but as I think it's clear for anyone who's listening that in order for people to start adopting these techniques, it's still not very easy to adopt it in cities, but it has to start in places like where there are new developments happening or new construction, or places that are privately owned, like farms. So that's why they are scattered in different locations. In terms of this project, actually, we've built the whole project. So it was a house owned by two brothers, and it was in a condition that cannot survive anymore, and it had to be taken down. So that's why it was a good opportunity to start with. We had to demolish the whole house and to redesign it from the beginning to suit two families. because in the beginning it's designed. I'm sorry, I don't have pictures for it previously how it was and how the design has become, but yeah, it wasn't designed well and didn't suit all their needs. So we had to sit with the families, the two families, with the kids and the wives and the men, anyone who was going to live in this house, to understand what their needs. So we basically had 140 meters and wanted to do two separate flats for the two brothers and their families. This location, like Azbit Abu Arni, it's a place in Cairo. It's one of the biggest slum areas, or used to be. I mean, it was changed in the last couple of years, but it was. It's considered one of the biggest, unprivileged communities around Cairo. We used to volunteer in this area when I was a student in the university, and so I knew the place very well. I knew most of the families, not all of them, of course, and I knew that it needed the actions should have been done in houses. When we were volunteering as students, we couldn't do anything about the infrastructure. We were only going there teaching the kids or giving like charity or things like that. But I felt being an engineer or construction engineer, we should be helping with the areas we know most. Like other people can, of course, their needed activities and their essential needs and everything, but everyone should be helping with the part that they know about the most. So that's why I had in the back of my mind the idea that I have to do something about their houses. I used to go and visit their houses through when we do surveys or when we meet the families. So I was always checking the walls and checking the ceiling, and I can see the cracks, and I can feel that this is not a safe place for the kids to live in. But back then we were helpless. Like we couldn't do really something as big as intervening in a construction activity. So that's why when the opportunity came to start working on a real project, I had to go back to the same place, and it wasn't easy. And I thought, people, if we're going to someone and you're telling them I would pay for the house and I will rebuild it for you and you will be involved, and they would happily accept. But actually, not everyone was happy with us using mud, as they have also the same misconceptions about it. But through a lot of discussions, a lot of meetings, and involving the people and showing them the material and doing a couple of workshops with them, they at least were interested to explore the idea. So yes, so this project, it took us, I don't remember how long, but it took us a while to fundraise for it and to convince the people and to work on it and to finalize it. So it was a long journey. I think it took us a year or more. So yes, this is how it was realized. And so yeah, I was only referring to how the people furnished it. So
Yes.
we actually built the full house. We plastered it. We've delivered it to them, ready to start to live in it.
Yes.
They
Can
put
I just ask, how was the roof made?
wood ceiling.
Completely out of wood, nothing above it.
No, nothing. No, and just the insulation layers of it, but but the main element is wood.
And the insulation, it's not a form of mud or concrete or...
The last part is mud, so that it's also an accessible roof, so people mostly use it, or they depend a lot about the roof in these areas. But we've used the water insulation, the heat insulation, and we've used mud as a last layer.
Please carry on. I just wanted people to have a bit more detail about the project.
Of course, yeah. And this was the second one. We were also contacted by an NGO working in the educational field, and they had a huge need in one of the villages in Al Ayat near Giza. They wanted to build a school, and they were conscious of the environment, and they wanted it's different from the normal schools that they see around, or the normal, I would say, public schools. So we received the call from them, and we were interested to explore the idea. As I said, we worked on this project through a competition, a design competition. We announced it online. We asked anyone who's interested to send their ideas, and we even formed a panel of juries from different countries to give their feedback about the designs that we received. And the one who received, or the ones who got the most points, their design was accepted, and we've started working on. It's mainly this one was stabilized rammed earth. We've used limestone for the foundation, and for some corners we've used the roof as a vaulted roof out of fired red bricks. We didn't have access to compressed earth blocks at the moment, and it was plastered also with lime-based plastered. Yes, this is another project in a different region, but this one is in Sinai, in St. Catherine. It's in a place called Wadi Gharba. Also, we were approached by an initiative working there for almost 10 years, and they identified also a huge need for a medical facility, a medical unit where volunteer doctors can come in and just do their own examinations in the building. And another location as well, or this was our second phase of the project, where we wanted to build, this is the clinic. As I said, it operates through volunteer doctors, and they operate like 3 days a month. And we have a clinic for the dentist and another clinic for general examination. And the other facility was a building built mainly for educational purposes, where volunteers can come and give educational classes to the students. And yes, this is part of the clinic. As you can see, we've in this project we have contributed a bit to the community with teaching them about rammed earth, but also we've learned a lot from them in terms of how they use the palm trees and, as a structure element, and how they also cure it so that it will be effective and not attacked by any other like for example ants. They've learned, or they've taught us also some of the yes, the termites, right. They've taught us also how they use it as a shading element in one place, but the picture does not show it here. We have a shading element made out of goat's hair, where the women weave it with their own hands. But we've learned a lot from them, and we've adopted the design a lot from our discussions with them. Some of the main workers with us in the project. Also, this was one example. This was
Can I just ask? So the building was made. The foundation was stone. The walls were rammed earth. The beams were palm tree.
Rammed earth project.
Sorry.
In this one, we've used an unstabilized rammed earth, so we haven't used cement in the mixture, and we've only added those gravel lines, the erosion lines, so that they would protect the building from the rain. Okay,
because there's a lot of rain there, I assume, of course.
Yeah, they don't come usually, but when it comes, they're usually heavy.
And then they use palm tree trunks for the beams, and then I assume they used part of the stems as well for the for the covering, and then a nice layer of mud.
Exactly.
Okay, it's lovely.
And this project also, we were very lucky because most of the materials we were able to source from the mountains, just beside, the back of the site. So we were able sort of to contain the budget of the project, but also it was good to have everything sourced, or most of the things sourced from around the site. This one was in a private farm. It's an organic farm, so the owners were conscious also about the environment, and they wanted to do something where they can work from. This is their workshop, and somewhere where they can stay in if they have to stay overnight. So it was a very basic project, but it was they had the idea in mind to do it with a different methodology. We've used this in this project. We've used a stabilized rammed earth with lime. And we've used limestone, and also the mortar was lime. So it was also a good exploration for us.
So when we say stabilized rammed earth, that means that it has an element of cement or lime in it.
Exactly, yes.
Unstabilized, no cement, no lime.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes. This project also was an opportunity to explore the idea of building social houses, but using natural materials. So in this project, we had a donor. She was an architect, and she wanted to build a house in Luxor for a family whose house was affected by a fire incident, and they wanted to rebuild it. And she was going to fund it, but she wanted to do something a bit different than what most of the NGOs do. She was very skeptical about the solutions they offer, and they're always not very humane. They're very like thin walls. The materials are not very friendly to the weather there. So she knew about our work, and she wanted to explore how we can build a house in a social context, but using natural materials. So in this one, we've used also like natural stones for a foundation and for the first layer of the wall. We've used stabilized round earth. And the design as well was also inspired by how the family would use it. Like they wanted a courtyard where they can have like a fire, an oven, built oven, where they do most of their cooking there. They wanted a court in the middle where all the rooms have access to. Also using vaults and domes was sort of familiar to them, and it fit, and it also contributed in making the performance better for the building. We tried to study also the orientation, the openings, the ventilation, everything. We tried to use also some of the materials they have. So we used alabaster in one of the rooms to give more natural light, and still it's a local material. We tried to lessen the cost by building some of the furniture, like the bedrooms or their cupboards. So they were also very involved in mostly all the activities, even building the furniture. Most of the family members were the ones who did it with us. This was another project also in another region, again in Sinai, but in Dahab. This was a project, the client were the Ministry of Environmental Affairs and UNDP. They were the funders of the project. The scope of the project was to build a couple of facilities around the protectorate, used as administrative offices or facilities for the tourists or the people visiting the place. So these were two offices for admin use, and this is another one for the tickets and issuing the tickets for the entry. And this one was toilets facilities, and the system that we have done was a dry toilet system. So in order also to preserve the water in such facility, we've added a couple of urban furniture around the site, like seating elements and some shading elements, but I don't know where the pictures are. But this is also part of a watchtower for the security reasons. We've used a mix of round earth. We've used wood in some elements, stones as well. So yeah, it's a mix of different materials. This one was our scope in this project was we worked with SECOM in one of their campuses in Wahat al-Bahariya. Our scope was basically to build the walls of a residential zone that they were starting. So our scope was mainly to build the walls, and they finished the rest of the activities. And also part of our work was to produce compressed earth blocks that they have used in some of their activities also around the site. I'm not sure why some slides are missing, but yeah, you got the point.
But I was going to ask, these walls, are they borders for the project, or are they like walls that people can play within? Because I see there are gaps. Are they going to fill in the gaps with iron fences, or?
They were going to fill in the gaps, and some were with compressed earth blocks and some were void. But that was a closed area. They were a residential zone and a place where they would have like a sort of a restaurant or a place, a restaurant for the people living on campus. But yeah, it was closed because they had roofing afterwards. I didn't have the picture afterwards, but it was a closed zone.
Lovely. It's lovely. The various types of uses are just amazing. How you can provide something that's very local and something that is also very governmental, something that attains to this site, because you did two things in Sinai. One of them is stabilized, the other is not. One looks very old school and vernacular and down to earth. The other looks like it's a bit more polished, especially with the paint that you used. I mean, it just goes to show that it's not just about creating stuff for communities. If you want something more, as some people like to call it, upscale, it can still be done, and it can still be used everywhere, regardless of your lifestyle or what purpose you're using it for.
Absolutely. And talking about upscale, so we're going to the fanciest project we have at the moment. This is like the newest addition to our portfolio, and still it's not even done yet. But this is, I would say, the biggest challenge and achievement so far. So we've been assigned from Orascom to build. It's a project in Nalgona. It's a 22 villas in on an island. That's why it's called Art Island Project. We've only been like we're now only, our scope is to build a one mock-up unit just to explore the technique and explore the method of building with round earth in this context. So now we're only assigned for one villa. Once it's hopefully fully done and assessed and everything, we'll be able to work on the rest of the project. So it's still in the very beginning. We've only our scope is as subcontractors is to build all the round earth walls in the project or in one villa. So this is the main theme of the project, is all the facades and all the main structure walls are round earth, and they have the general contractor doing the rest of the elements. But this is, as we were saying about the client who has specific needs in terms of colors, in terms of color palette. So this is the client that we're talking about. So and of course in terms of quality and in terms of finish and everything, this is a top-notch project. So it is a good challenge for us. It's good that we're also exceeding the some of the limits that we had. We're still learning. We still have some challenges that we're working on. It's good to work with a big client who still is they're very keen to make this prototype successful, so that we're able to finish the full project. But yeah, we're still, as you can see, it's work on progress. We're still in the very beginning of it, but we're happy to work on such challenge. I think it's about time, and you've been working for 8 years, so this is a good time for us to work on this scale. But yeah, but wish us luck. And
congratulations, and inshallah it will go well and it will be successful, and to be a blueprint and a prototype and a specimen for people to follow. Because we don't have a shortage of compounds and gated communities in Egypt, be it at the beach or at any lake or in any city or any fringe of a city. So I think we're building them faster now than normal homes are built for normal people. So I think if we're able to enter that market, then the environment will be much more sustainable. But I was just going to ask you, in the walls, I could see there were certain like wooden cubes and a wooden vertical element. What are those? Just
these wood blocks are basically we have an intersecting walls, other walls out of concrete blocks. So this is where they will be embedded inside our walls. I don't think there is a picture for them when they were constructed. But this is the thing, and the walls on this axis are all round earth, but we have intersecting walls or like perpendicular walls from different materials that are non-structural, especially the walls in the toilets or the kitchen. So this is where they have to intersect or like be embedded, so they would act as a one system.
Okay.
Well, this is basically why they've been done. But some of the, as I was saying, there are a lot of challenges and still a lot of, I wouldn't say limitation, but I want to say some features that are relevant will still have to be in a round earth wall or in earth construction in general. Like for example, as you can see, these holes that are made because of the tie rods that we use to fix our formworks together. So once you uninstall your formwork, you have these holes from the tie rods that were embedded or like were added to fix your formworks. You have to work on repairing these holes, and also these fine marks or the fine lines, the intersection or the lines of your plywood formworks. When you have a client, sometimes they think and you can get the round earth wall as the renders they put on the brochures. They wanted something seamless as this one, like for example. But this was the conversation. It took us 1.5 years with Orascom, so that they would just get a bit familiar with the material and to understand it, understand still the limitations or I would say how special it is, Bordo. You cannot compare it to a normal material, you cannot compare it to normal finish, and still we are facing some difficulties for them to understand this and to accept it, and we're working on this. But yeah, this could be some of the challenges we're facing at the moment of how to make it as seamless as possible, how to make the clients accept it as an organic material. What else? Like, yeah, a couple of new challenges for us, but I'm saying, no, it's about time, and we work on these challenges.
Well done.
But yeah, it's a huge learning curve for us at the moment.
Well done. Well done.
Another project that's still in progress also. It should be hopefully open by September. It's a boutique hotel in Aswan. It's 6 rooms with a restaurant and a kitchen. This is the first project we do out of completely compressed earth blocks. So this is like the projects from site. Photos from site. It's you cannot really see a difference between the buildings and what's adjacent to it or what's behind it, the mountain, because it was sourced also from somewhere close to the site. It's not actually from the site because this is an island, so we couldn't source all the materials from the island. But we had a collaboration with one of our good friends. He had a compressed machine, and he was our main suppliers for the blocks, and we were the ones who did the design and also the implementation. And in this project also, the concept design of it started in one of my courses at the GUC. I had the opportunity to suggest a project where the design studio can work on, so I suggested this project, and they were almost 8 teams, each one, or 8 groups, each one working on a concept design for this project. And we had the client come in the studio and check all the designs, and the one that he felt most relevant to his needs, this was the one we selected. So the concept design actually came from the students, and then our team started to develop it and work on the rest of the details. So yeah, this project is almost 70% done. We still have to do the second floor and some landscape elements, and hopefully, yes, it will be open to the public in September. And
this puts a huge, this project especially puts a huge smile on my face, because I saw it on Facebook earlier, and I rarely ever go on Facebook. Sometimes, as everyone, we binge, but other than that, and I saw it and I was like, this is so beautiful, and when is it going to come out? And I can't remember who put the image on, but it wasn't you. And I was like, this is so, I wonder who is building this. And it's just so nice to see, because this is what we try to say when we teach architecture, construction, or civil, or whatever. It should be that the students, the teachers, the client, they're all involved, and it's a project that actually it can come to life. Usually the projects that we're building or that we're designing in class have nothing to do with reality, nothing to do with what can be done. And if it does, it's extremely far-fetched. And then we teach it for 5 straight years at a time. A upscale villa, an upscale airport, upscale hubs, nothing is ever tangible enough. It's like we're all going to work in Foster and Partners somehow. And that, and by the way, with all my respect, but they're not that sustainable either. Just we can be very clear about that. And there's a lot behind the certifications and the green emblems behind buildings, and we all know this. So it's just so nice to see something that's so refreshing and brings everything together so nicely. So thank you for showing us that case, and I hope inshallah it comes to life and people can see it as a beautiful specimen. MashaAllah.
Thank you. Well, I had this urge also in mind. I find a lot of effort and time is being spent on graduation projects for the students, and it actually ends up in the drawers and or the presentations they do. But I felt this is a lot of effort that people or the students put in, so we might use it in something that's going to be real. I try. There's one thing, Barzo, I didn't mention. It relates to the name of handover, because many people always ask me what does it resemble? And the vision, or not the vision, the idea, yes, evolved by the time. So it might be not as relevant as it was in the beginning. So handover came from the concept that, as in the beginning, I told you the idea was to build houses out of natural materials for underprivileged people. But the idea was it's a very collaborative method, and a very collaborative vision of how we should do this. Like students contribute with their time and their effort, experts contribute with their knowledge and expertise. We contribute as a facilitators to make this happen, and the people themselves, they contribute because they know their issues, and most of the time they know the solution to it. So it's a very collaborative process, and at the end of that day we deliver the project, and we just hand it over to the community for them to preserve it and maintain it, and hopefully continue to do this on their own, like continue building this way on their own. This was the idea of how, like, the business model of it. I know it changed a bit, but still the concept of like this collaborative form is still we're trying to adopt it. Yeah.
It's lovely.
Thank you. I'll just go through quickly the remaining projects, and this is just a design project. It still haven't been implemented, or we haven't set a date of when it's going to be implemented. It's just a resort on the other side from the other project. This project is in Sahel Island. This is in Gharb Sahel, both of them in Aswan. This is a more like an enlarged view of the other one. It's not a boutique hotel. It's more or less a resort, 21 rooms with a wellness area, a kitchen, a restaurant. It's a mix of rammed earth and compressed earth blocks. I'm not sure why the picture's resolution is very weird, but yeah, I think
No, it's good. It's good. It's very good.
Okay. So the public areas are compressed earth blocks, and the rooms are rammed earth. This was how we were adopting it, but still we're not sure when it's going to be constructed. And this project also is one of the projects we're very excited about it. It's a medical facility in Fayoum where the land was donated by one of our family members in Fayoum, where their father had a medical issue and they couldn't get him to the nearest hospital. So when their father died, they decided to dedicate this land for a medical unit so that people wouldn't experience the same situation as they did. So we had a collaboration with an organization here called Toulouse, and we received a call for funding this project from a Danish institute called ReArc. They're actually not an NGO or donor, they are an architecture firm who works on environmental ideas or environmental projects, but they wanted to collaborate with firms around the world who works on development projects. So it was a great matchmaking. This project the area is almost 600 or 700 meters square. It's a mix. It's not a mix. They're all medical functions, whether they are clinics or labs, an emergency area or emergency room, and other multi-purpose hall for awareness or for sessions or lectures. The idea now, our vision is to build it all out of compressed earth blocks, except for this building to be out of rammed earth. We're still investigating this part. But yeah, we had a couple of meetings with the people there. We had a couple of meetings with the medical team who will be operating the space, but we are very eager to finish the design. It should, our plan is to start the construction on July, hopefully, inshallah. So yeah, this is the second big thing we're working on. This one was a very nice project, but it hasn't come to life yet. But this is a project in Niger, in Niamey. It was a collaboration with a studio in India. They're called Unitary. They're owned by an Egyptian architect, Omar Rabia. This one also, it came from a call from one of the Egyptian NGOs working in different countries around Africa, and they wanted to build a space that includes different functions like a school, dormitories, a clinic, workshop, or souk. So it has different functions, and we wanted to do something innovative a bit in terms of the walls or the system. So we started working with the form of the rammed earth of how we can do different forms, and we've actually built a prototype here in Fayoum just to explore if this is doable, if we can really change the formwork and actually create this shape that would contribute in the design, contribute in the also performance as adding more shape to the walls. But yeah, it still hasn't been realized yet. but it was a nice opportunity to explore. These are some of the workshops we have done throughout the years. We have done some projects outside of Egypt. This one was in Jordan. This one was in Tunisia. This one, I think this is the latest one we've done in Nueva. And yeah, one of the things we're also happy about is this is not any shortlisting or anything. It's just a nomination, but for us it was a big thing to have 5 of our projects just nominated for Aachen. It was just a good pat on the back. Someone is seeing what we're doing. Hopefully the next time it will be shortlisted at least. These are some of the programs we've joined, some of the competitions or recognitions we have received. Some organizations were really very helpful and encouraging to us throughout the years, like Tamayuz Award or getting the Qatar Sustainability Award in the very beginning when we were just starting, and all of the other programs for fellowship and incubators. It helped us, and especially me, to work on the other side of the company. It's not just the technicalities, but also on how to run the company and how to manage it, how to move it forward, how to grow it. For both sides are important as well. I think I'm done. Yeah. So I've talked a lot, I know. But,
No, Radwa, thank you so much. That was very inspiring. I'll just ask you last couple questions. I know you have to go. Really, this is very inspiring to me, and I'm sure to a lot of people. You know how much your work and Handover's work means to me, and how much it inspires me personally in my practice and what I teach and what I try to preach and try to walk as well at the same time, which I can't always do. But especially that you played with the formwork of the wall, I think that kind of you gave me a very good example of, just to prove my point, because I always say that robots are part of modernity's main character of PDF. They are plastic, they are disposable, and they are fake. To some extent, the way they are used, the way they are hyper advertised is not correct. I'm not against robots, but I'm against how we use them. And I think the way you use the formwork shows how a human being and labor and respecting community work can bring about beautiful aesthetic designs without the need of complicated hinges and 5 axes and arms here and there. And so it was just so nice to see that.
That's a topic also of its own. Like, we can have just another talk for this, because yes, you've mentioned an angle of it, but also sometimes we get asked a lot about adding the manpower to the equation also have its own drawbacks, whether in terms of quality, in terms of speed, which is something very important also for decision makers. We're trying to explore these options just for the sake of our development and to understand how the world is moving forward. But I would say we should be witnessing what's happening around us, but also be very skeptical in how we use it or where we use it and when. It's not applicable everywhere. It's not applicable in all applications, but I'm sure that it will definitely solve some of the challenges we have in some of the projects. But yeah, as I said, this could be a full talk, because I know you have a lot of criticism about this, blindly following everything that's tech, but I'm sure that there is a balance, and there's always something that you can benefit from and just add to your vision without overusing it and without just using it with no specific reason in mind. But yeah, it's good.
Yes, it is a wider discussion. Thank you for that. I was just going to say, given all the topics you spoke about in the materials and how you bring community together and everything, is there any topic in mind, or maybe something that you've seen recently in the construction or non-construction world that you think addresses this issue of community and architecture and bringing people together, or a controversial topic, or a topic you're interested in that you think is relevant to what you do in your work?
I would say, I think I would just say I'll just refer to what we're actually working on and what's still missing. And as I was telling you, it's a learning curve. Like in the very beginning, as you can see, even from the projects we have done, we were very focused on the material side and the technique and how we can master it. And then we will add another layer. So we were not very focused on the design, for example. So afterwards, we started to add the layer of the design and adopting design techniques. Now we're trying to be also more conscious about the life cycle of everything we are adopting in the project. So we're starting to add the level of life cycle assessment and calculating everything and being very conscious about the performance and the afterlife of the project. So this is something that it's starting, but we haven't fully adopted in all our projects. So I think there's still always a room for development, and even in the material, I don't think, and I'm not saying that we've mastered it. Till now, we're still working on developing the tools, developing the materials, and I think it would be helpful for our team or also for others who are working in this field to focus more. As I said in the beginning, we don't have a specific team working on research just for the sake of research, but it would be very beneficial to have someone only focusing on the research and adapting it in the project, not just doing the research for the sake of the projects we're working on, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
But one of the things we sometimes forget, or because you're very overwhelmed with everything that's happening, and we have a lot of يعني great resources around us, like people like you, people like Hisham. He's one of our partners in the company and he's on our advisory board. Sometimes you forget that you have resources of people who are very intellectual and good researchers and have a lot of resources that you can take easily and adapt in your projects. So I'm just thinking of all, I would say, the drawbacks that we have and how we can still work on them, but of course there's a lot of room for more research, room for more how would I say fine tuning. We haven't reached, of course, the full knowledge, that's for sure, but yeah, we need some like changes in organizing ourselves and asking the help of others who have knowledge and they have knowledge and resources, and how we can collaborate and integrate this together.
Just like you build natural buildings, you're looking for a natural, you have a natural process of how things are developed. I think you embody the idea of start small, think big, start now.
Yeah.
I think that's the motto you're going by. My last question.
Yeah.
If you were to go back 10, 15 years and you had the opportunity to give yourself or your younger self some advice, what would that advice be for the road ahead?
I haven't thought about this. I don't know why, but I always tell myself, even with everything I've witnessed, طبعا, when we have this kind of talks and presentation, you always show the bright side of it, the achievements, the recognitions, the awards, but of course there's a lot of very low moments and a lot of rejections and everything, and disappointments, and I'm sure you understand it, and everyone like logical would understand this. But I always say, even if I got back, I would do it all over again. Maybe one of the things I've learned, at some point, or some days when you receive a certain news or a certain problem at work, you feel this is the end of the world, خلاص, there's no way back. And every time, subhanallah, you find a way, and alhamdulillah, you try to resolve it, and another big issue comes. I think it's part of the journey. خلاص, you have to understand, this is you have agreed to do something non-conventional. فبرضه the problems are non-conventional sometimes. I always try to remind myself, you've experienced something similar and it passed, فخلاص try just to gather yourself, take a day off ولا حاجة, and then just come back. This is one advice, I think, problems happen, and you just find ways to be calm. And as you said, yes, we're working naturally, but it's always good to be organized, like internally organized. Get the right people to work with you, the right minds, people who believe in what you're doing, people who would actually make things, or make your life easier. And if you don't know about this, خلاص, acknowledge it, get someone who's as knowledgeable about this, and just move on. I didn't prepare a specific answer for this. I'm just getting.
No, it's a lovely answer.
the back of my mind كده, or from what I'm experiencing at the moment يعني. طبعا use بجد your network and use your resources. This is something I have يعني failed in many times. I know great minds around me يعني الحمد لله. I'm blessed and I have supporters, I have advisors, even like friends. At some point when I have a certain challenge, there's someone who's knowledgeable about this, and for some reason I feel مثلا this is a lot for me to ask from someone, or I'm too shy to ask for help. This is one of the things I haven't done very correctly يعني. What else? I'm trying to think, but I'm sure there are a lot
I
of
think it's a lovely answer, and it encompasses a lot of elements.
وبرضه let me يعني stress on something I still haven't يعني managed to do it, but the idea of dedicating some time of your يعني some chunk of your time as بقى a CEO ولا whatever your role is to always keep learning يعني. I always tell myself إنه I have to continue like reading more, dedicate some time for learning. I study something new in my field, but I find it a bit hard to find the time to do this. But I'm sure it's very critical يعني, if you're always up to date, if you go into يعني, sometimes you have to look around and study, actually study, to pick up كده what's happening around you. Of course you have a team and people working on this, especially the technical sides, but you as a founder and you as a manager, whether learn or study something related to management, something related to business development, something related to the technicalities. But I'm not doing this at the moment, but I know that this is not the right thing to do. But having some time to study and to learn new things is very important.
Radwa, I cannot thank you enough for your advice, and I can't thank you enough for your time. I'll be putting down in the description links to your profile, to Handover's page, to some of the projects that you mentioned, also some of the institutes that you applied for, and the scholarships. Maybe someone is listening and wants to somehow follow in your footsteps. So I'll put some of those links as well. But anyway, Radwa, really, thank you so much. I hope it all goes well with your projects. I hope they're all successful. Maybe one day we'll have another one, a follow-up talking about how people found them after they've experienced living in them. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching the Reformers podcast. This was Farres Yasser, and we had our wonderful guest Radwa Rostom today. See you all next time. Until then, take care.
Thank you, Farres.